everyone, welcome back to Life After Duty. Today I got another Air Force story. This is another my Air Force story. So let's get into it. In one of my favorite musical, Hamilton, there's a line they say, death doesn't discriminate. But in my Air Force story, death definitely did discriminate. When my grandmother from my paternal side passed away in Korea while I was deployed, her death meant nothing to my chain of command. There were no support, no compassion, nothing. Meanwhile, an officer at that same deployment was given or granted leave because their father was sick, not dead, sick. So they were given grace, and I was given silence. This is what discrimination looks like, and this is how the Air Force operates. And enlisted members are easier to break. They're easier to target, easier to discard in terms of that, referring to it's a lot easier to punish an enlisted member than punishing an officer. So, yeah, death didn't discriminate. The Air Force did. I still remember that exact moment when I did end up getting it. I was in an appointment when my phone buzzed, but because I was in an appointment, I didn't look at it at that time. So once my appointment was done, I left the cubicle and I looked at my phone. And the thing is, the message came from someone I'd never expected to get a message from because it was from my uncle in Korea. It was short, somewhat brutal on my end because I wasn't prepared for whatever message that he was sending me over, and it was very short. It was grandmother has passed away. Boom. That moment, that short message right there. No comfort, really. No build-up. Just the fact she was gone. My grandmother, she was well over 100 years old. She was a survivor. She lived through war, hunger, poverty, and hardship that her generation had to face. And as much as she can, in a way, she did what she did. As a mother, she held her family together. And once that message came through, she was gone. I didn't know how to process it. And unfortunately, even till today, I still don't know how to process death. And death is something that I still don't understand. A year earlier, I had struggled with the death of my friend's grandfather. I was never given time to fully process that loss either. Even till today, I don't think I have processed it properly because so many things were piled on together. But now I was forced to process my grandmother's death while I was trapped in this so-called deployment. And this deployment, it wasn't any other deployment that regular deployers go through. Mine was a legit skeleton crew, meaning we barely had people to fill in the spot. So yeah, it was a skeleton crew. and very much a prison-like system. I wasn't given, or I wasn't provided the opportunity of fresh air. There was no escape, nowhere to run away, and definitely nowhere to run from the pain. It was literally just me at that point, locked inside a toxic environment, which became worse as time went on. But I did what I thought was the best thing to do at that time, was to report it to my supervisor. But the solution that they gave me was, don't come to work. You're relieved of your duty for today. Don't worry about it. But here's the thing. This was a brand new supervisor that just came out of training school, came to operational base. They know nothing. And unfortunately, they know nothing about me. And that's the thing. Work was the only thing that kept me alive. Work was the only thing that kept me together. And especially, work was the only thing that kept me structured, because that was my distraction. The one thing that I was able to escape from, one thing that I knew how to hold on to from falling apart completely. And that supervisor was just trying to strip it away, because they just don't know. Yeah. Even though there were people, even though there were chaplain, even though there were people I talked to, when death hits and it's not someone you're able to relate it to, you are left alone regardless. Like, there is no escape of that. So yeah, I was left alone. I still haven't processed it. The only thing I know is there's grief, and alone with the knowledge that my grandmother was gone. And then the insults come in, right? Because, like I say, this was a very toxic life that I was handed to. Because I heard another officer was granted a leave by the base commander of that deployment, because their father was sick, not dead, sick. Yet they were given the grace to leave this forsaken God place of prison-like deployment. Me? Nothing. Did that commander ask how I was holding up? No. Did he or should he have? Definitely, that's up to the commander's privilege, but guess what? In the area that I was working in, I was literally the second person and one of two persons working in that freaking shop. And I was there every day, every week, in front of his fucking face too, giving briefs. So fuck no. Fuck no. No compassion either. Did he even acknowledge my loss? Not even once. So why? Here's the fun part now. Because I just saw on my E5 rank. Because I was enlisted. Because I wasn't part of his circle. Because I didn't play their game. Because I did not play the white man's game. And just to clarify, this is not me being racist. This is something that I was told. That in order for you to survive, you should play the white man's game. So I'm just recalling what I was told, because I refused to play the white man's game. So my grandmother's death was dismissed by this commander. I was written off as meaningless. Death definitely didn't discriminate. They did. The ones with power, the one who had the control over my life. And here's the ugly truth about the military. It's easier to target an enlisted member than an officer. Why? Because in order for an officer to get in trouble, it requires much more than what an enlisted has to go through. For enlisted, you can look at something wrong and you get in trouble. Easy as that. So it takes efforts, politics, paperwork, and a risk to challenge an officer. But to break an enlisted member, it's easy. We're seen as replaceable, disposable tools, not people. We are literally seen as numbers. Numbers to make an officer look good. So, when something goes wrong, when someone is vulnerable, grieving, struggling, it's the enlisted who gets scapegoated. It's the enlisted that gets discarded. Oh my God, the enlisted are easy scrap fire that they will toss in a heartbeat. So I became that enlisted target. So I became an easy target. Not because I was lazy, mind you. Not because I was incompetent. Just because I did everything right. Because I outperformed expectations. Because I showed I was smarter than what they believed an enlisted should be. And it terrified them. So instead of supporting me, they destroyed me. Instead of enriching me and trying to help me further and supporting the Air Force as a whole entity, they decided to destroy me piece by piece. Then the day came, a day where I was finally given a date to return to the home base. And I happened to come on that C-130 cargo. And as we were trying to land, as we were taxiing, the first sign, it was a slight tingle going up my right arm. As I reached for my bag clip, my arm stopped moving and it dropped to the side. I tried it with my left arm. Boom. My left arm also dropped too. Then my legs started to give out. I literally fell onto our makeshift chair, and then another airman literally had to hold me up so I wouldn't hit the floor. I couldn't feel my toes either. I couldn't feel my fingertips either. All my extremities were... I just could not feel any of that. But what I saw was my hands were in a tight fist. It was locked. My fingernails at that time was digging into my palms so deep that it should have hurt. But I did not feel that either. So I sat there, trapped in my own body, unable to move. Eventually, the emergency team arrived, and once everyone was cleared out, questions, drilling me with the procedures of all the questions of our emergency tech. ABC, airway, breathing, circulation. Good. I'm able to respond to them. So they moved on to the OPQRST. Over and over, I constantly felt like I was repeating myself. Same thing. Just begging them to help me. Just begging them to help me. My teeth were chattering so violently. I thought I was going to bite my tongue. So that was my primary concern as I was responding to all their questions, the same questions over and over again. Don't bite your tongue. Given it was middle of the January, but I was layered in my winter gear, but my body wasn't cold. It was shutting down. They tried to take my blood pressure, but the pain was beyond belief. I screamed. I literally screamed once that cuff started to puff up against my arm. I screamed for them to stop. Because I wasn't able to move my arms, I couldn't pull it off. The only thing I could have done at that time was to scream. Telling them, please stop, take it off, it hurts. Literally beg for mercy for them to stop. Then came the glucometer. First they tried my finger, or my thumb, since my fingers were still dug into my palm of my fist. No blood. Then they went to my toes. As they were untying my boots, loosening up the laces, each release, the pressure that was released, it hurt. So I was crying at that point in pain, and they eventually got my socks off and went for my toe, but no blood. I had no control, not of my hands, not of my body, not of my life. My body made a desperate choice. Keep the brain alive, keep the heart beating, abandon everything else. That was the day my body gave out. And what did my chain of command see? Not a human being. Not someone in need of care. They saw me as a liability. They saw me as a weakness. They definitely saw it as an excuse to discard me. And here's the part that haunts me the most. I still remember it. I still remember the pain. I still remember everything. Not just the pain, not just the paralysis, the indifference. No one cared. Not my supervisor, not the base commander of the deploy location or the home location, not the Air Force that sells on brotherhood as family, as the thought of no one gets left behind. Because enlisted members are much easier to be left behind. Enlisted members are easier as a target. They are so much easier to break by the people who have power. And unfortunately, that's what toxic leadership does. It protects officers from everything. It sacrifices enlisted members. So today, this week, on the anniversary of my grandmother's passing, I remember her, but at the same time, I'm still remembered the same event that happened. on that sunny ass day, on that desert field. I still remember that message of my grandmother passing. I remember her. I remember her when I was little. I remember how much love I received from her. But I also remember how I was treated with her death. Death did not discriminate. The Air Force did. And when it came down to everything, the easiest target was me. This is a story no one talks about. You don't hear this on an ad. You don't see this on a television. You don't hear this from anyone's speech. You don't hear this. It's not part of the damn fucking slogan for sure. That talks about honor, courage, and family. Nope. This is the dark side of the military service. The silence. The betrayal. The way grief and pain are weaponized against you when you're just an enlisted member. I tell this story because no one will. Because it didn't happen decades ago. It didn't happen in another person's war. It didn't happen in like our old wartime story. It happened recently. It's still happening today. And that's why I refuse to stay silent. And that's why I am sharing my story as raw as I can. Because this is my Air Force story that still haunts me till today. This is my Air Force experience that still keeps me prison of my own mind. And this is my story of life after duty. Thank you.